Pippa, I'll leave you to introduce your cohort, but I will introduce the glorious Pippa, CEO of Electric Glue and an activist in all things advertising and other. She's chair of Time 2, which is working to end sexual harassment in the industry. She's also a trustee of both NABS and Mind. So when Jenny was talking about the ITV show, Pippa and I say thank you, and we worked on that. And it was indeed as successful as we talked about. So I will leave you, Pippa, to introduce the team Starling, and we want to make the most of one of the few clients in the room, so be prepared, Rachel. Thanks.
Thank you, Stevie. It's a real pleasure to be here, and thank you particularly to Brian and to Nick and to everybody that's made this happen. It's great to be part of the conversation. So the job for our session is to share some applied Who Cares thinking through our case study for Starling Bank, which we've bravely entitled Who Cares Wins, and we hope we're going to demonstrate that to you today. So the three of us, and we have Rachel Kerrone, my client, brand and marketing director at Starling Bank, and Jess Lovell, founder and CSO at Wonderhood, creative agency. We are here representing brand, creative and media, unified thinking around a common goal. Since its launch in 2017, Starling Bank has delivered a fairer, smarter and more human alternative to the legacy banks of the past. Hence its brand platform, The Bank Built for You. So, sorry, I thought there was another chart there, apologies. So we're going to take around 25 minutes to answer the following questions. What have we done to show that we care? And what does this mean for the bottom line? And the customer, of course. Rachel's going to talk about the Starling brand, why it's different, and its marketing goals. Jess is going to then share with us the creative approach and show a bit of the work. And lastly, I will look at Starling through the lens of Electric Glue's media strategy and selection. And then we'll wrap up and hopefully have time for a few questions. So, Rachel.
Thank you. We're going to do a bit of swapping around here with the next turn, so apologies for that. Thank you for the intro to Stevie and Pippa, and thank you for allowing us to be here. You know, when Pippa first contacted me about being the client case study for this event, I was genuinely really excited because right from the beginning of building the Starling brand, showing we care has always been a really, really central part of everything that we've done. You know, for those that don't know Starling in the room, hopefully most of you do, but for those that don't, Anne Bowden has already been mentioned as the only female founder of a bank in the UK, both when she set Starling up in 2014 and to this day she still is. Starling was founded to disrupt the banking industry. It was founded to offer customers a better and fairer way of managing their money. And that ethos runs through everything we do at Starling and through our brand. Customers have also been at the centre of everything, from building our tech in the very early days, tech that we're now kind of selling to other banks around the world under our new brand engine, to our award-winning 24/7 customer service, which is based here in the UK, and they are there 365 days a year to support all of our customers. But it's not only our customers that we care about. Actually, I haven't moved the slide on, have I? There we go. Anybody that doesn't know Anne, there she is. Here's part of the Starling team up here, and that's the other thing that I wanted to mention, that, you know, we really, really genuinely care about the people that work at Starling. You know, this isn't about having a job. This is about an inclusive place where people feel like they're really, really changing things and they're doing it in the right way. Since we went to market in 2017, we've amassed well over 4 million customers and won many awards, some of which you'll see up here, mainly voted for by consumers. The one I'm particularly proud of that I've put on the bottom here is our Which Award. So earlier this year, we won the Best Banking Brand for the 4th year in a row. And for 5 years, we've been the Which Recommended Provider for Current Accounts. So yeah, some of the awards that we're really, really proud of as a young brand. One of the other things I wanted to talk about, because obviously the topic of being here is all about kind of brands who care, and Starling is certainly one of those. Something I think we do really well at Starling is that we launch products that genuinely help people and solve problems. I think there's been certainly Lucy, when she spoke at the beginning, has talked a lot about this kind of solving problem piece. We're often the first to market with these products. They're often then copied by competitors, which actually we don't see as a bad thing, because the more they're copied, the more customers then benefit from those things. Some of the examples I've put up here cover things like our gambling block, which allows customers to block gambling merchants within their app. So very much you can do that yourself, literally with the flick of a button. Hide references, which is a feature that we launched last year, which supports victims of economic abuse, allowing them to block payments that are coming through as references on some of their banking payments. Really simple features, but really, really life-changing for a lot of people. When we launched Hide References last year, we didn't build that feature because hundreds of customers had asked for it. It was literally a handful of people. But there was a problem there that really, really needed to be solved. We've now, sadly, got over 32,000 people using that feature. So it just shows, that problem was really there to be solved. And again, we were first to market as a bank to do that. On a lighter note, our Kite and Connected cards, both of which are linked to a main Starling account. Kite, which is linked to the parent account. It's free debit card and app for kids, 5 to 16, really sort of there to help them learn about their spending and saving and promoting financial education. The Connected card is a product that we launched right at the beginning of the COVID lockdowns to help the carers of vulnerable people go and sort of do their shopping for them. So again, sort of products that we were able to launch quite quickly for problems that needed to be solved at the time. And this is something that we really do, sort of focus on at Starling. Lots of the features that we launch are based on customer feedback. And again, as I say, it doesn't have to be hundreds or even thousands of customers. Often customers will give feedback to our customer services team. That goes into our developer team. And quite often, as a bank that's built its own tech, we can make those changes very, very quickly and roll them out to the app, which is a really great thing to be able to do and feedback to our customers. Final one to mention is virtual cards, which basically acts like a bit of a digital envelope so that people can separate budgets for different things. So if you're not going over budget when you don't want to, and we pay interest on all of our current account balances. So if you're a customer who doesn't want the hassle of then going and opening an additional savings account, you're actually getting interest on your balance anyway. So that's just a few examples of some of the products to mention. Our marketing. Pippa's going to come on to talk a little bit about our media and Jess about our creative. But as I said at the beginning, doing the right thing is very, very much part of Starling's DNA. And our marketing is no different. What you see here on the screen is just a few examples of what we do within our marketing. And, we look for what's right for the brand rather than jumping on the latest trends. And, we will move away or reduce activity with channels where we don't feel like it's aligning with our values or where we feel it's putting our customers at risk. It's been fairly sort of public that we pulled away our paid advertising from Meta back in, just over 2 years ago now, actually. And very much a kind of, a channel that wasn't then aligning with our values. And we wanted to kind of have our voice heard and do what we could for that. So partnerships, you'll see up here kind of a couple of logos of National Trust and the Starling Bike. So we do a lot of work with the National Trust. We offer children in urban areas access to nature. We invest in peatland restoration through the National Trust. We sponsor the Starling Bike scheme up in Manchester, where we've now got an office to really sort of help to improve that sustainable travel up there. Something that obviously the Mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham, is really, really supportive of. We have supported women's and girls football since 2022, actually, when we had that fantastic year of the Women's Euros. And we've since supported many, many grassroots teams with kit and equipment right across the UK. So again, sort of, just bringing in this sort of, our values, bringing in doing the right thing to everything we do. So these partnerships are really, really purpose-driven. Our brand platform that Pippa just mentioned, The Bank Built for You, which we launched at the beginning of this year, very much puts people at the centre, shows the different ways. I'm not doing very well on this, am I? Oh no, there we go. We're still on there. And really sort of puts people at the centre and shows all the different ways that they're using Starling to make their financial lives easier. And something I've heard a lot of people talk about already today actually is that client-agency relationship. And I think, you know, that's definitely sort of, as a young sort of brand who was a startup only a few years ago, our agency partners and those relationships are really key. And I think bringing the media and the creative really closely together with that shared ambition, the customer at the heart of everything, as all of our agencies do, means that we've been able to produce really, really great work together over the last few years. On that note, I'm going to hand over to Jess from Wonderhood.
We're going to shuffle around and swap places. Hello, thank you everybody. This is a kind of pretty amazing conference to be at, and as Rachel said, it's a real honour to be asked to speak and share the work that we've been doing with Starling. We've been working with them since we won a competitive pitch back in 2019, and our first campaign launched beginning of 2020, just as the pandemic hit. Which meant that we kind of had to be smart and pivot and adapt as their products did. They kind of changed through the pandemic. We adapted the campaign to kind of meet it. We've done 3 big phases of work with them. The first was a business campaign. Starling had been given some money as part of the downfall of RBS to increase competition in the banking marketplace. That was the first campaign we did with them. The second one was Set Yourself Free. It was our first big retail banking project that we did with them. It was all about how Starling as a bank was changing the status quo. There was an SME campaign that ran alongside this. And then the latest work, The Bank Built for You, which focused on retail banking once again, and really, rather than talking about Starling, puts the consumer back into the market, into the advertising and the marketing with some lovely sort of use case stories. The thing that it's interesting talking about this, and we've spent time kind of talking about how we were going to frame this case study, and I think there's something that defines the relationship and the work that we've done as a team, a collective team, and that's kind of trust and kind of the care and the trust and the relationships that we've built. Trust, obviously, is an absolutely critical kind of metric that you need to shift if you're going to persuade people to shift their bank account, which is not an easy thing to do. Most marriages last longer than most bank accounts, relationships last longer than marriages. When we first started working with Starling, they were considered one of many kind of noisy, upstart challengers in the marketplace. And it was clear to us that they weren't just about kind of paying for your latte and your bus fare, but actually they had something much more substantial about them. They had been built with a deep integrity. And collectively, we made the decision that we were going to kind of position them actually in a category of one. And we've talked about this and this positioning kind of as we've developed the work through them. They have more substance than the rest of the neobanks. There might be other neobanks in here, so hopefully you'll kind of forgive me this. But they'd been built with this kind of deep integrity at the heart of it. But they also had a more challenger mindset than some of the established banks. And we really believed that they were doing something very different. Trust and care has also run through the work that we've created and also the relationships that we built in getting to that work. And I think it's really interesting that kind of care and trust and respect are really critical factors in developing the work and developing the advertising, and those values need to sit at the heart of it. It's about the trust between the agency and the client, trust between the media partners, trust between the advertiser and the audience. It's really important that the work that we're creating kind of respects the audience and the attention they're giving us. Trust between the creative agency and the production partners. These are all, for us, have been really critical in getting to great work. Starling was one of our first clients at Wonderhood, and we have grown with them and we've committed to them over time. And it's a relationship that kind of has changed quite a lot over time, but actually the trust in the relationship has been really, really critical to getting to the work that we've done. Care and understanding and spending time with the business, with the people within the business. Rachel talked about the fact that there's a culture at Starling. There's also a very strong culture at Wonderhood as well, and really respecting those cultures as we're developing the work. It's not just about the output, it's also about understanding the people and the businesses that you're working with. Trust in terms of the audience as well. So in each of the campaigns that we've developed, we spent quite a lot of time doing research to get to them. This has been really kind of critical in allowing us to authentically represent the consumer experience. And I hope when you kind of see the work, you'll feel the care and the trust that's gone into kind of making it. Our starting point for the original SME campaign was to spend a lot of time researching small businesses. We were one ourselves. Starling actually had been a startup. It still had that very, very entrepreneurial spirit and a difficult journey and a difficult story that sat at the heart of it. And so the first campaign really, rather than just talking about how brilliant it was to have start a small business, really, really represented the highs and the lows of it. Kind of serendipitously, we launched with somebody in their shed working just as the pandemic hit, which made us feel like we were very foresightful, but we weren't. The second campaign we carried out really was all about Starling Bank as a challenger, their philosophy, their approach. And I think we spent a lot of time with key stakeholders within the bank, really, really understanding what it was that made them different and really brought that to life. And then in the latest campaign, it was really important to us that the customers that we brought to life and their stories were really authentically delivered. So we were working with people like the DSC, the Diversity Standards Council, to make sure that the work that we produced felt representative as well, because I think that's also another really, really important thing. I'm just going to play the latest ad.
Set aside money for stuff that's important to you. Starling Bank, the bank built for you.
I think one of the things, I hope you see it from the work, is the craft as well, and the kind of work that goes into it. That's been really important. We have always created ads for Starling that have had a huge amount of kind of craft and attention to detail really embodied with them. We've worked with brilliant talent. There's been that kind of care in the relationships that we've created between the team at Starling, the team at Wonderhood, and the production partners that we've worked with as well. And also kind of thinking about them within this whole equation, I think, is very important. And this is about creating the right crafted semiotics to help give Starling the credibility to demonstrate that it was like one of the established players. It was really important that it had that attention to detail to it, because the semiotics of the work we were creating were very important in driving trust. But also, it's about kind of caring about the attention that the audience is giving to us, and caring that we are respecting them and providing entertainment. I mean, Lucy talked about a lot in her kind of opening thing, but actually, they don't owe us anything, this audience, so it's really important that we're doing that. And then the final thing that I'm going to talk about is measurement and results. It's a really, really important factor in any work that you're creating. And advertising lays claim to being data-driven industry, more capable than ever of delivering insights. But there's a work stream we're going to come on to talk about that Denise has been leading, which shows that if you can't trust the data, how can you trust the claims? And the evidence that actually we are potentially suffering from a lack of common standards, so often witnessed in kind of the sourcing and the use of data. The industry is obviously kind of talking about this, thinking about this. The fact that we're all here today talking about it is really kind of important. The final thing that I'm going to talk about is also the importance of actually the effectiveness awards, because I think they have a really important role to play in holding us all to account. And we saw some charts from Les Burnett, who I worked with for years at DDB, and the work that he's done using the IPA data bank. the FEs. These are people who, these are professionals who are giving up their time in order to do these research projects, to write the case studies, to build that body of knowledge that give us the evidence that we can use to kind of make the case for doing the right thing and showing that we care. And I think that whole kind of effectiveness industry is a really strong kind of sign of how much this industry does care. Pippa's going to talk to you now about the media and the choices that Starling have made as they've played out these campaigns.
Thank you, Rachel and Jess. So we heard from Rachel how Starling is disrupting the banking industry by showing care and respect to its customers. This isn't about just better rates or better products, but about taking the whole customer experience really seriously in every form. They don't shout, they don't intrude, they're responsible and sensitive, and they know that the way that they talk to people really, really matters. And then we heard from Jess how fundamental trust has been to our collective relationship and collective work, and the brilliant campaign that's resulted from that. So when we won the pitch back in 2021, one of our key objectives was to separate Starling from the host of digital challenger banks that we've heard a bit about, and to position it as being able to compete head-on with the established banks in the UK. But to do this, people needed to trust Starling as much as they would, say, a NatWest or a Lloyds. These legacy banking brands are household and high street names. There's thousands of these branches up and down high streets across the country. And they're genuine fabric brands, I think we can all agree. Banks that all of us have grown up with, that our parents introduced us to, and their parents before them, that we know and we trust. It's a fiercely competitive and high-spending sector, over 200 million annually. And particularly amongst the neobanks, which is a really growing sector, spend continues to increase. There's been a 245% increase in spend since 2020, just from that category. So our media strategy was built around the objective of overcoming inertia that exists in the market. As Jess highlighted, switching banks is something that people are really loath to do, even though it is easier to do now than it's ever been. Wealthify estimated that almost half of UK customers have never switched their current account. So we identified 3 pillars from our kind of media strategy point of view to overcome this inertia. And these represented the task for media. And whilst we were looking for media to address all of them, we realised early on that there was one that was particularly critical from the very, very start. And this is something we've heard quite a lot about today, trust. So we all know it's crucial for any brand, but especially a brand that is responsible for looking after our money, and one that is a new digital entrant that doesn't have any history like its established competition. Our research, both bespoke and desktop, showed that certain media contexts were better for helping create a sense of trust. But as we all know, you have to interpret this really carefully. It's not a case of just saying some genres are absolutely perfectly bang on and others are entirely wrong. It's just about giving us an insight into the types of environments we should focus on. We were very clear that we weren't just building a schedule around reach and frequency. This is as much about where we don't show up as where we do. At EG, you may have heard us talk about our philosophy as sacrifice. This doesn't mean giving anything up. It simply means doing less things, but doing them really, really well. Or as we put it, fewer, bigger, better. Our second pillar is salience. And this is much more about delivering brand awareness. We wanted to be a brand that easily came to mind in the same way that all of us could name the high street banks without barely thinking. So our task was to keep the brand in front of people on a regular basis as much as we could. With a limited budget, massively outspent by our competition, that makes it a bit of an ongoing challenge. And as I said, Starling's a digital bank. No one's ever going to walk past a Starling branch on their high street. So we just don't have that physical presence. So we needed our media to create a continuous and visible presence. To help address this, that we adapted our AV and our out-of-home planning to be always on. We identified the right sort of AV content on a rolling basis where we wanted to appear. We knew we can't be everywhere all at once, so we had to identify the best times and best content. In out-of-home, we targeted people's habitual journeys. we aim to maintain a regular presence so that our targets saw Starling often, time and time again, and that it became more and more familiar to them. Again, that meant sacrifice. Larger formats we use also address the issue of trust, because we were showing up along other high street brands and household names, as well as along our large banking competitors. And we know that this works really effectively for our really important audience for us, which we've touched on, SMEs and businesses too. Our third pillar is empathy. It's not enough to have strong brand awareness and saliency and to be trusted. As the great planner Stephen King once said, and this is a quote we love at Electric Glue, people choose their brands as they choose their friends. We needed to be liked, loved even, for people to make the decision to become one of our customers. And this is something that I think brands quite often forget. For Starling, we knew it was really important to build a network of positive associations across every single channel where we were advertising. And we know that having a really deep understanding about your audience helps. That's an obvious thing to say, I know. But to understand what kind of people they are, what really motivates them, what's important to them, what drives them. And to help us get under the skin of our audience, we developed a deep dive segmentation, not just a kind of basic desktop standard TGI run, but really in-depth, underpinned by a huge amount of data. And this helped us in a number of different ways, and those are the groups that we settled on in the end. It helps us to identify content areas that resonate with our audience. It helps us tailor messaging and to glue different channels across the full marketing funnel to engage customers. That's the glue in Electric Glue. And it helps us all of us, agency partners as well as internal Starling stakeholders, to have a clear, consistent view of our audiences, rather than each of us having our own image of who it is we should be engaging with. And that's really helped us create a common understanding and a common language in the way we collaborate together. So I hope we've demonstrated today how Starling, working collaboratively with all its partner agencies, is succeeding by caring. We truly believe that who cares wins. Starling is not invasive, it's not irritating, it's not dull, and it's not wasteful in its media choices. As a brand, Starling considers how revenue is flowing around the ecosystem and who in that ecosystem is producing relevant and worthwhile content. And to close our session, before we take any questions, Rachel is going to share some of the top line, and I'm sure you'll agree, impressive results as evidence of Starling's success.
Are we okay for time? We'll be quick. I can see the number flashing up, going 20 minutes. I'll keep this very brief. I'm not going to talk you through all these numbers in detail, but I just really wanted to share some of the highlights that have come from our annual results this year. All of this is on our website, so feel free to have a look afterwards. I'll be staying for a drink, so if you want to grab me and ask any questions, then you can do that too. But what I really like when I look at these results is that not only do they show a really significant increase in our customer numbers and our profits, and we've just hit our third year of profitability, but actually our deposits are up to 11 billion. Our transactions rose by 21%, which shows that we've got more customers using our services more often and continuing to really deepen their relationship with us. That shows loyalty, and that comes from growing a strong brand that cares. So just to wrap up, on the final sort of takeaways, Pippa's talked about we're in a very high spending category in the banking industry. We don't spend anywhere near what our competitors spend, but actually you don't have to outspend your competitors. You just need to be really smart about how and where you show up. Not good on this clicker. It's because I can see it on here. So driving emotional connections through the authenticity that Jess talked about, and showing that we care by really bringing to life the audience and the craft in the work. And finally, just, I mentioned this earlier, but don't just jump on trends for the sake of it if they're not right for your brand, and be bold enough to change things, and be bold enough to pull away from channels that you don't feel are working for you, and don't feel that you care and align with you in the way that you want them to. So with that, I will hand over to Stevie. Thank you.
you very much. I think that was a great show and tell